I'm the guy that actually interviewed Satoshi Nakamoto.
Which is who?
David Schwartz. In 2008, David Schwartz puts a patent on blockchain technology. I was a Bitcoin guy. I mined 3.5 Bitcoin successfully. It was my wife that talked me out of Bitcoin and talked me into XRP 10 years ago.
What do you think XRP is going to be at by 2030?
$100,000.
Mel Carmine, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining the Coin Zone. How are you?
Paul, thank you for inviting me. You're amazing. I told my wife you're going to be a monster. I mean, if the algorithms don't get to you and you could stay off of the conspiracy stuff, then they won't bother you too much. But once you start to touch the conspiracy stuff, that's when they come after you, unfortunately.
We'll see. We'll see. I'll try to keep out of it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
absolutely.
But we got you here today because, you know, there's plenty of, speaking of conspiracies, unfortunately, about XRP.
Yeah.
So maybe let's dive into some of that right now. But before we get to that, you were just describing to me off air this movie that you have and how big it was. And I'd just love for you to describe that to the audience here just to start it off.
Sure. The movie is DearMrPresident.net, not .com, DearMrPresident.net. If you go there, anybody could actually download the movie from Vimeo. There's instructions there how to do it. And you could actually share it on even if you're a podcaster, you're not a podcaster, you got a platform on YouTube or Facebook, whatever, you could upload it and run with it. It's translated in 7 different languages. We spent 6.5 months because I strive for perfection. Everybody's complaining about this, that, and the other, Paul, but at the end of the day, if we don't unclog the microphones, you could yell and scream as loud as you want until you're blue in the face and your eyes are popping out of your sockets. Ain't nobody hearing you because someone else is in charge of the algorithms. Meanwhile, I'm saying, we live in the United States of America. We got a First Amendment, and these, tech giants are thumbing their nose at the rule of law that our forefathers left behind. Obviously, our forefathers could have never have foreseen this technological advancement that we're in now. Had they been able to see it, they probably would have, engraved it into the Constitution. So we're under what's called the American corporation, and we have to switch over to the Republic. And that's where we're in that transition right now. And Donald Trump is the guy that's doing that and is executing that plan with military precision. I thought that by launching this movie, it would get to Donald Trump. Not that it hasn't, because I know that his son works with a good friend of mine that was hired. Well, he became a good friend of mine throughout the transition of filming the movie, Dear Mr. President. And what happened was that they actually hired somebody in the interim as we're filming the movie to bring in a team of attorneys into the White House, because this guy's a way out of the box thinker. His name is Trennis Evans. And Trennis Evans was brought in specifically to bring in a team of attorneys to fight what? Censorship. And actually, he wasn't going to make the movie because he's just a busy guy. And I said, dude, I'm sorry, we have the final cut. He made believe he didn't hear me. He sent me a piece that was wrong. I said, bro, I can't use this. I'm sorry, the movie's done. We're going to run without you. And within minutes, he sent me another piece, and he actually did make the movie. I had to plead with my editing staff to get him in the movie, so he's in the movie. And so, from what I understand, he sent the trailer over to Trump Jr., and Trump Jr. has seen the trailer, at least, that we know of. So, but that's where it's at. So I thought, by launching this movie, getting to the man and getting to all the podcasters getting behind us on this movie, that we would be able to change the laws or tweak the laws in some way where we can maybe have an addendum to the First Amendment of the Constitution to where the tech giants no longer can F with us, right? And because, see, what they're afraid of is Mel Carmine being able to reach his fullest potential. The Paul with crypto here, to reach his fullest potential. They don't want you to teach people out there on how they can become rich. They can't stand us. Call it a conspiracy, call it whatever you want to call it. But the reality is there's an unwritten rule that they don't want the little guys to become the big guys. And I'm here to piss in their cornflakes, in short. So we launched the movie on the 9th, which was my birthday, September 9th. We had a 24-hour stream with all of the podcasters. And what happens on the 10th? Charlie Kirk gets shot, allegedly. Now, we could open up that can of worms. We won't, because there's more anomalies, and that battlefield was, in my opinion, we'll leave it at that, was choreographed to be confusing, and they did a great job at confusing the shit out of the battlefield. Therefore,
So how do
nobody
you
knows what's
think?
going on.
So how do you think crypto, takes part in taking power back from those individuals and putting it back in, our hands, as you mentioned?
Well, crypto has the potentiality, allegedly, to be able to make this is the biggest wealth transfer. There's be a lot of new multi-hundred millionaires. There'll be a lot of new multi-billionaires. And I believe there'll be a lot of new multi-trillionaires. Guys like Elon Musk are going to go from 350 billion to multi-trillions. And so will Brad Garlinghouse. And so will Schwartz. And so will Chris Larson. A lot of these big people who are there and they own a lot more than you and I own are positioned to do exactly just that. And so if we put the power in the back of the people and we give them the firepower, meaning the money, they got a problem. They got a major problem. And they know that. Because if they came to you and you got money that is being staked every single month and your money's getting pregnant every month and giving birth to new money every month and you're making, 10, 15, 20 million. Let's say you're one of the anomalies, multi-billionaire, Paul from Arizona, and you're making multi-million dollars a month in interest without touching your principal, and the president of the United States, Donald John Trump, needs help. Is Paul going to help? I believe yes. Will Mel Carmine help? Guaranteed 100% yes. And there's going to be a lot of us. We're going to go out of the woodwork. And they don't want to create a machine that's going to cause the demise of the establishment that we paid for with our tax dollars, our illegal tax dollars. So here we are. So how do we correct it? We got to keep fighting the fight. We got to get up in the morning because these guys are not going to roll over and play dead. These guys are not going to go away anytime soon. We've paid them quadrillions of dollars, and people still pay into the monster called the IRS and all of these different taxes in your county, your local town, etc. And then they wonder why the monster is still alive. Stop paying the monster.
When it comes to XRP, many people would say that XRP is feeding the monster per se and kind of allowing the TradFi institutions to reign. What would you say to that?
XRP is the new monster because nobody's talking about central bank digital currencies anymore because they're not null and void. They're obsolete. Why do I need a central bank digital currency, Paul, if I wanted to buy your house, your boat, your trailer home from you, and you accept XRP and I can send the XRP directly to your wallet? Do I need a central bank digital currency to do that? Do I? No. So they know that their goose is cooked. That's why we have a Mexican standoff. And it's not going to go away anytime soon. How much of a fight do they have still left in them? That remains to be seen. I think the revaluation is going to happen in stages. I think we should see a tranche of it this year, but I've been wrong before, and I might be wrong again. But there's a lot of anomalies right now, the shutdown. And if you look at all the lingo and all the things and all the pieces of the chessboard that are moving, and you're paying attention to the right guys, we're in the middle of the biggest dance as far as the wealth transfer that we could possibly be in.
How big do you think Baron Trump is to the crypto world?
Huge, huge. Absolutely. The family itself is huge because, see, we just graduated out of an administration who finagled the bagel, and we know what happened in 2020, and who won the presidency? This guy who I believe, as far as I'm concerned, without getting your channel in trouble, you know what happened. The outcome that happened was not the outcome that we were expecting, we the people. And so we went from a very, standoffish with cryptos to a, hey, come on in, let's have dinner. And Brad Garlinghouse and Stu Algarati and all these crypto giants are hanging out with Donald Trump. Yours truly, Eric Trump, had dinner not too long ago with Eric Trump. But even he does not want to mention XRP. He mentions it very briefly. Yeah, I'm friends with it. Yeah, it's a great project, but he doesn't go there too much because it's not because he doesn't want the little people. There's an agenda. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, like I said, through and through. And I think the agenda, because look, at the end of the day, the U.S. government has monopoly money. It's backed up by nothing. It costs them nothing to print. What's to stop them, for example, to pay and buy a bunch of Bitcoins? Think about this. Let's play a little fantasy world right now and buy a bunch of Bitcoins and then crash it to zero because the cabal is all involved with Bitcoin. How much did it cost them? Nothing. Right? The very first token that they chose to be part of the reserve was XRP, Cardano, Solana, in that order. And then 2 hours later said, oh, by the way, we forgot. Let's put Bitcoin and Ethereum as part. Bitcoin and Ethereum are dinosaurs. They're antiquated technology. It's over.
So what makes XRP better than both of those?
Speed, lightning speed, it never made a mistake. It's already moved trillions of dollars. Michael Arrington from Arrington Capital 6 years ago moves $55 million. It took exactly, I got the video, 1.8 seconds, and it cost the guy 30 cents. And it's scalable to 3.5 trillion transactions per second. We know that from a guy by the name of Hodor, which we believe is an inside guy. Hodor used to come out and write these really eloquent blogs. He was an incredible writer, and he had the entire XRP armies mesmerized. There was a lady, I can't think of her name off the top as well. We suspect that she was also somebody from the inside, leaving the breadcrumbs. And then they would play a Houdini act, disappear, along with Arthur Britto. Arthur Britto recently reappeared, right? And so we know that these guys who the industry's been following, specifically the XRP Army 1.0, we know that what they said. We respect what they've been saying. They're very, very educated. They use a vocabulary that's second to none. We suspect that they are inside guys, and I believe they are.
So who is this supposed cabal that is behind, or at least maybe running Bitcoin in your eyes?
How much time do you have?
We got time.
Well, the 13 families, some of them are in Italy, some of them are in Switzerland, the Rothschild, the Bilderbergers, the Vanderbilts, you've heard the names.
Okay, so this isn't the typical CIA route. This is something completely different, you're saying?
Oh, yeah. This is the guys who've been running the world for a long, long time. These are the guys that basically dictate what goes into our food, what our clothes are made of, et cetera, et cetera. You know, what gets sprayed in the air, everything. You know, how much you pay for a gallon of gas or a gallon of milk, everything to enslave humanity. That's what these families have done because they thought they were going to win, and they were going to go, either underground if we go into a nuclear scenario, which I don't believe that's on the table at this moment, based on who's in charge. But based on who's in charge is really important to know that if Donald Trump leaves office and Eric Trump does not take over, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We need somebody that can run with on the same trajectory and carry the baton forward. I don't trust Vance because he's a politician. We've been down the road of politicians before, and look where it got us. It got us to exactly where we are now, where the car has gone off the cliff. Yeah, we got the parachutes, and we could deploy the parachutes and sort of soften the landing. To what extent, we don't know.
So are you saying that these individuals created Bitcoin, or that they just kind of took hold of it and now they're basically able to manipulate it and take over it?
I'm the guy that actually interviewed Satoshi Nakamoto.
Which is who?
David Schwartz.
Really?
David Schwartz, yeah. That video went hyper viral. There was hundreds of phones at the XRP.
Did you ask him that if he was Satoshi?
Yeah, the video lives all over the internet, all over X.com. That video got passed around more than a joint at a Grateful Dead concert. That thing is like hundreds and hundreds of millions of views collectively. Every time.
So why is David Schwartz Satoshi in your eyes then?
Okay, I could tell you the story, and it's highly plausible, but it could be debatable, right? Anything could be debated. In 2008, David Schwartz puts a patent on blockchain technology. You know that, right? And I approached him with this story. I said, "You went and put a patent on blockchain technology in 2008." He didn't deny it. He says, "Yeah, that's true." I said, 2000. And then I said, in 2000, 2001, something like that, or late 1999. You went to go work for DARPA as a consultant. You were there in 2007 and in 2008. What happened in 2007, 2008? You're probably too young to remember.
But the financial crisis? Yeah.
The housing bubble. The whole thing came crashing on down. Mm-hmm. All right? The only guy that can go back and fix Bitcoin, what happens after 2009? Bitcoin comes up, right? So 2007, 2008, the housing bubble, right? He's there. He's at the scene of the crime. 2009, Bitcoin is born. Bitcoin doesn't work. It's too clunky. It's too slow. It costs too much money. People don't want to wait. People don't want to spend that kind of money to move a couple of Bitcoins. Who's the only guy that can go back and fix Bitcoin? Voila. Satoshi Nakamoto, a.k.a. David Schwartz. Conversation basically ended like this in 2 minutes and 39 seconds. That's how long the video is. He goes, yeah, you're right. He goes, I may very well be one of the main Satoshis. Verbatim. And people went freaking nuts.
Do you lend any light to the conspiracy that Satoshi is supposedly from the UK just because of a number of different things based with his emails, the time that things were launched? And
there's a lot of people, you know, everybody's got their own. Conspiracies are like assholes. Everybody's got one. You know what I mean? But some of them make more sense than others. I mean, my guy that I listen to pretty much, not on a regular basis, he's very entertaining. He's very charismatic. He's very loud. He's very theatrical, if you will. Christopher Green. They call him the General. General, hello. he's a funny guy. He throws chairs in the pool. He's over there in Hawaii. And but anyway, you know, he basically thinks it's Charlie Lee. Now, I know that it's not Charlie Lee. Charlie Lee is not Satoshi Nakamoto.
no shot.
No shot. Absolutely no shot. I have a story behind my theory of why I think, a.k.a., you know, David Schwartz, a.k.a. Satoshi Nakamoto, is Satoshi Nakamoto. He doesn't have a story. I never heard the story. He just thinks that.
So based off of that, then, if David Schwartz is Satoshi Nakamoto, would you go as far as saying that XRP would not have existed then if he got Bitcoin right the first time, per se?
Absolutely. And you see, I'm not married to the brand. I'm not in love with Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm not in love with, David Schwartz. I'm not in love with Brad Garlinghouse. I couldn't give a shit about Chris Larson. I'm here for one reason, dude. I'm here to make money. If it was Bitcoin that moved at the speed of light, and they can move money at the speed of light without ever making any mistakes, and it could be ramped up to 1 billion, 2 billion, 10 billion transactions per second, then that's where I would fly with.
Yeah.
Right? But
So,
it's not.
Based off of that, then, in your defense with XRP, out of the top 10, I believe it is the highest performing in the past 12 months. But would you say you chose XRP as an investment because you think it has the highest, probability of the best gains out of all the top 10 and top 20 or 30?
Well, if it could do everything that we just discussed, so we both agreed that it could do everything we just discussed, and it's $2.50 today, right? The chances that they're going up 20, 30, 50, 60, 100x is very probable, right? For Bitcoin to do that, you'd have to look at a 30, 40 million, $50 million Bitcoin. That's not going to happen unless your name is Michael Saylor, which he's delusional, right?
So why is Michael Saylor delusional?
Because Bitcoin was created as an experiment to make sure that they can create a new monetary system. When they failed and they had to go to XRP, try to get Michael Saylor to speak about XRP. He won't do it. He can't stand Brad Garlinghouse. Now he's caught at the White House having to sit across the dinner table from him and having dinner with him, and he's got to bite his tongue. Imagine being Michael Saylor now. He can no longer come out and say, Brad Garlinghouse should be locked up. For what? What did he do? Ripple just applied to be the bank. They're going to be the biggest bank in the world. They're partners with the Treasury. The old cabal is being phased out. There's still going to be a Federal Reserve, but it's going to be a government Federal Reserve. For the first time, federal means something. Before, federal didn't mean it was as federal as Federal Express. Okay? Now you've got a situation where Ripple is a situation where it's going to become the World Bank, the IMF, the new IMF on steroids, married to the biggest treasury in the world with the most powerful country in the world. And the central bank digital currency are not being discussed. Do you see why there's a Mexican standoff?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot from different angles coming in regards to stable coins, CBDCs, banks creating their own stable coins, and then XRP in the mix. So,
again, I'm going to go back to the same old argument. All of these tokens, including XRP, they all work perfectly well peer-to-peer. Can the central banks of the world come to Paul's house and put a gun to your head, say, nope, you can't buy that boat unless you use our money? We don't need another bridge. We already have the bridge. It's called XRP. It's not called for it. See, they fell asleep behind the driver's seat, and when they realized that they didn't take this very seriously, obviously, but when they realized that this thing is cooked, it's over, right? And so once they woke up and they realized, oh my God, that's when the lawsuit happened. That's when they slowed the whole thing down to see how they could figure out how to build their own token. JP Morgan went out and built their own token. Total disaster. Total disaster.
JPM coin.
Yeah. Absolutely. Doesn't do 0.1% of what XRP could do. Because when they went and tried to recruit anybody who was anybody, and there was nobody home, they realized, shit, everybody's already working for Ripple. The talent pool was completely dried. They realized they have a major problem on their hands. And they did. And they still do.
What do you say to all these people then that, for instance, the Chainlink community, Chainlink has been doing a lot of what people thought that XRP and Ripple would be doing. There's a lot of other communities, Swift per se, and especially what's going on with the ISO 20022. A lot of people think that what Ripple was supposed to be doing and what they were supposed to be working on, they have just completely, just like, kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of shit the bed, and Brad Carlinghouse, I guess, let it slip through his fingers. But what would you say to that? Is that reality? Is that what's actually going on?
The ISO tokens, as of, I believe, November 22nd, have to be in play. Is that correct? Are you hearing the same thing?
Yeah. And there's only a handful of coins that are on that list, and XRP is one of them.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving pieces on the chessboard. It's very interesting to see what's going on. I know I could tell you that I've been at this for 10 years. I was a Bitcoin guy. I mined 3.5 Bitcoin successfully. It was my wife that talked me out of Bitcoin and talked me into XRP 10 years ago. We bought our first XRP at 0.002 of a penny.
Wow.
For $50.
So what
25,000
made you
XRP.
Switch then? What was it that was the initial thing that just made you switch to XRP?
Great question. She basically, what she did is she said, hey, I want you to start watching some videos on YouTube regarding XRP. And bro, when the light went off, they could not produce the videos fast enough. I became like this guy that, hung out on the sofa that forgot to take showers, and I'm on the sofa for 17 hours. I smell like hell, and I wanted the next great video because I was like, oh my God, she's right. This is definitely, headed in that direction. And so, yeah.
So you're saying, that was 10 years ago, you said, but at this point, it's 2025. You're looking at comparing Bitcoin and XRP. Do you still think that XRP is the better option in regards to gains over the next 5 and 10 years?
It's not even a contest, Paul. It's not even a contest.
Do you do price predictions at all?
I do.
What do you think XRP is going to be at by 2030?
$100,000.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But here's why. It's got nothing to do with you and me being greedy. We're just two little, guys that got wind of this, and by luck, somebody told us, or like my wife in my case, and we got involved and we started to do our homework. And I'm more committed today than I was 10 years ago. I can tell you that. And so we're like a pit bull with a bone in our mouth with rabies, and we ain't letting go anytime soon because we know how the movie ends, right? There's no question that this is going to be a very, very big deal, a huge deal. And, look, could we be wrong? Could we be in a psyop? Yeah, of course. There's always a possibility for that. But I can tell you that I don't believe we're wrong. I believe that we're gonna get part of our reevaluation, potentially maybe some this year. A lot of people seem to think so. I don't like to put specific dates and times. I don't do that. The other thing is that I think that the bulk of it is going to come in 2026, 2027. Again, not because we want to get rich. We're just positioned. We have amassed, a tremendous amount of XRP, what have you, and we're just sitting, waiting, and accumulating. I don't encourage anybody to go out there and do trading. That's a recipe for a heart attack. But I do believe that, whoever sees the movie and is able to go through the finish line, you're going to be very, very wealthy. This is not. They don't call it the new wealth transfer for no reason. It's going to be huge. It's going to be really big. And it's got nothing to do with market cap. It's got to do with supply and demand. It's got to do with the fact that this makes all the currency on planet Earth, everything, compatible. It's like if you have a AT&T phone, cell phone, you should be able to talk to a Verizon phone. If you have a Verizon phone, you should be able to talk to another carrier, right? Does that make sense?
So
that's
yeah.
what XRP is. XRP came in and created the language so that all of this money could talk to each other and be the bridge to all of this currency. So when the money goes from let's say Argentina to Australia, and it switches over into their monetary system, then somebody who's working in Australia wants to send the money over to Mexico. It can be used over and over and over and over again. It's got nothing to do. $1 billion that they have is not going to be all that much. That's why there's other players like XLM and XDC, and there's tokens that are sort of associated with like Songbird and Flare and Stronghold and so on, right? That are going to all go for the ride.
So why do you think people should use XRP over, Ethereum or SUI or Cardano?
The fees and speed and accuracy and scalability. I mean, I can go on and on and on.
And what are the things that's going to push XRP to that $1,000 price point that you have mentioned?
When we go into this new world that we're going into that nobody can see, a lot of people unfortunately can't see it. And you go from, moving $5.5 quadrillion per year, $6 quadrillion per year to $100 quadrillion per year. You have to sort of do, multiplications and divisions, and you'll figure out how much supply there is, how many tokens is that could do what, who's going to do what, how big of a role is XRP going to play, how big of a role is XLM going to play, and then you'll come up with a number. And so that's what we're basing it on. We're basing it on the fact that we're going into a world where there's going to be universal basic income, whether you want it or not. The robots are coming, and they're coming for your jobs. These people are going to have to do something for that money. They're probably going to come work for you and me, Paul.
Right.
Because you're going to probably have some humanitarian projects because you're making $28 million a month in interest and that kind of money. You have to start a whole new humanitarian project every single month.
Right.
We're not just going to hand you $6,000 and you're going to sit there on a sofa watching Jeopardy and eating popcorn. That I can assure you. We're not there yet. When we get to the point where we have no money, because technology can give you anything you want, which we're headed that way. When that reality sets in, then we won't need money anymore.
So let's say that I am maybe a millennial or I'm part of the boomer generation. I have an existing 401k or a pension, or, I'm starting a Roth IRA and I'm considering putting Bitcoin in that. What would you say to individuals who you got in front of before they made that decision to say, don't do that with Bitcoin, do that with XRP instead?
Well, I candidly say and jokingly say that I've sold more XRP than Brad Garlinghouse, and I got international brokerage firms all over the world. I don't mention who they are because that's not necessary. I want to make sure I qualify my people, and if they got a minimum of $10,000 or more, there's no maximum. I can get them as much XRP. If somebody comes to me and say, Mel, I need $100 million worth of XRP. Can I supply? Yes. Of course, I'm going to tell them to put it, to get it out of their 401k and put it in XRP. XRP is going to be a monster, but I also tell them that they need to have patience. I wish I could just have the crystal ball and say, listen, it's going to happen, June 26th, 2026 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I can't do that because I don't know. I do know that we're in the middle of it based on everything that's playing out. But, to try and put a date on it, that's not what I do. Like I said earlier, I think, like I said, we're in the thick of it. I think Donald Trump pounding his chest with this, rights reserve world liberty finance token, it's going to be a monster. That's going to be another monster that Amber and I were able to get in. She made me an accredited investor. Don't ask me how, but she did it. Okay. And we were able to buy that thing for like fumes, like less than pennies. And so we got in, we got a nice little bag of that. We got our bets across the board on what we think are going to be the winners of the new financial system. And it's complicated. It's not easy. They don't make it easy. Now another factor comes into play.
Who are the biggest three winners off the top of your head right now of the new financial system?
XRP, XLM, XDC.
Okay, so not World Liberty Fi.
World Liberty Fi is going to play a role. Do I think they could reach a price of, thousands of dollars? Yes. Do I think they're going to be $100,000? No.
So why XLM and XDC? Because out of those three, including XRP, those two have always kind of lagged behind. If, like you kind of said, they've kind of been like the little baby brother, little cousins or whatever to XRP. But why all three of them do you think are going to have success?
Scalability, speed, accuracy, the ability to be able to move money, to do the governance, et cetera, et cetera. There's just too many. Like I said, this is. I'm a little older than you. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh, what I would give up a nice big bag of XRP to be 29 all over again. I'm twice that and then some. But anyway, yeah, I think, like I said, you're not going to have one token that wins them all, and they realize that. So, it's funny how it all happened that Jeff McCaleb was working with XRP Ripple, and he created a lot of it to some extent. So when he goes in and creates a sister token to that, and you look at the mechanics of that, and it resembles that, you know what I mean? Do I play around with some tokens like, for example, like Casino Coin, which is a carbon copy? A carbon, they just copied and pasted. That's what they did. They didn't try to rethink it or reinvent the wheel. They said, this works. Copy, paste. Let's use this one. Casino Coin. It's like in the dirt. It's like 5 zeros and a number, 6 zeros and a number, right? I bought that. I'm losing my ass on that right now. But I don't care because I'm a long-term thinker. And if you're a long-term thinker, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it takes to cross the finish line, then you're not going to get in trouble.
In crypto, community is super important. And XRP for sure has one of the most distinguished, different communities in the entire crypto, sphere. Why do you think that is?
It's got like an occult following. I think when you really compare the cryptocurrency people, let's just call them cryptocurrency people as a whole, specifically, and you compare them to the XRP cryptocurrency people, I think the level of education that the XRP people have gone through is above and beyond by a factor of 8, 10 times that of the Bitcoin people. And Bitcoin, getting back to Bitcoin, you realize it was created to transact, right? You understand that? That was their intent. Their intent was to transact. When it didn't transact, and they tried to fix the Lightning Network 900,000 times, and that didn't work, and all these teams all over the world, the best programmers in the world, can't fix it, they had to switch the story to a bullshit story. It's a store of value. What does it do? You see, the Michael Saylors will never step in the ring with guys like me and you because we're gonna get down to the fundamentals. We're gonna ask the tough questions. What does it do? Gold, physical silver, you could put it in your computer, you could put it in your TV, you could put it in your phone. Even your refrigerator has 2 ounces of gold in it. People don't know that. Even your refrigerator has 2 ounces of, not gold, silver, to make that thing work. The modern refrigerators. We could do that with the physical gold and silver, right? What does Bitcoin do? What could you do with it? It's a store of value.
So what do you say then to the individuals?
What problem does it fix?
What do you say to the individuals that say, well, Bitcoin is, decentralized in nature and XRP is kind of centralized? What would you say to individuals who claim that?
That's another bullshit story. You could, and you don't have 9 hours to do a show, but you could go on YouTube right now and punch in XRP more decentralized than Bitcoin, and I guarantee you'll have thousands of videos, literally, okay, that you can have a field day with that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt with basic math. Okay, math is like a pregnant woman. You're either pregnant or you ain't pregnant. You can't be half pregnant or almost pregnant, right? You either are or you aren't. And so the bottom line is that's another bullshit argument. We are much more decentralized. Right now, you can track every single transaction on Bitcoin, and that's been proven. So how are they decentralized? I mean, look, the Bitcoin Nancies have sold themselves a bill of goods. They have an occult following. It's the first one. We, as XRP people, respect Bitcoin was the first one that led the way, okay? And we hope that they can figure out a way to make it survive. But my intuition says that it shouldn't, because they can't make it function. Okay, if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. You're going to put the ETFs on it. Okay, wonderful. What does it do? What problems does it solve? It doesn't solve anything. Can you put a smart contract on a Bitcoin? No, you can't. Can you do dApps on a Bitcoin? No, you can't. Can you do federated sidechain? No, you can't. You can't do any of this stuff. Everything that I just mentioned that you can't do on Bitcoin, you could do on XRP, right? So why would anybody want to use that? Because they want that one to be the winner, because we were the banker's coin. Well, the banks are pretty pissed off at Ripple, because it's not, Jamie Dimon who's partnered with the Treasury of the United States of America. It's not Jamie Dimon's bank that's going to be the biggest bank in the world. It's going to be Ripple.
Some people, for example, when I sat down with Armando Pantoja, we were talking about how important it is to have individuals like Brad Garlinghouse to represent XRP and Ripple to be able to, get deals done. People want someone to represent, someone to shake hands with when you're going to cut deals, etc. So with that respect, though, do you think that makes XRP in any sort of way centralized because it has this one figure who can kind of dictate their success in a way? Whereas with Bitcoin, people say, Satoshi's not present. He hasn't touched his wallet. He hasn't done anything really to push the chain forward after he launched it.
Well, at the end of the day, a lot of the people that are going to be owning the XRP, for example, are not going to be holding on to it, because if it reaches $100,000, are you going to hold on to your XRP? No. Do you care if it's centralized or decentralized at that point? You couldn't give two shits. You cash it in for gold. You cash it in for silver. You're going to give a shit. You'll tokenize your gold and silver. You put it on the blockchain, which is attached to a blockchain debit card that's in your bank account, and voila, you're off to the races. You can travel around the world and spend your XRP. It's a non-argument.
Now, why do you think a lot of individuals, especially a lot of billionaires who publicly talk about Bitcoin, Stanley Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor Jones, Robert Kiyosaki, Ray Dalio, just to name a couple, they all buy Bitcoin, but none of them mention XRP. Why do you think that is?
You know who Pompliano is?
Absolutely, of course.
Anthony Pompliano. Anthony Pompliano, let me bring you back in time. Anthony Pompliano back in the day, way, way early. We're talking Bitcoin's probably $2 or $3. And already they realized that it wasn't going to work. And already XRP was out. It was called OneCoin. No, it was called OpenCoin back then. And there shortly after, they changed the name to XRP, and he was following. At that point, it was called XRP. And he says, if they're afraid of Bitcoin, wait until they see XRP. And because he's a good-looking guy, he's well-spoken, he's not rough around the edges like Mel Carmine, ex-pizzeria impresario, okay? They went and grabbed him. When I say they, who do I mean? I mean the Mike Novogratz, the Michael Saylors, the Max Kaisers. And they said, hey, you are never to talk about XRP ever again. I'm just speculating. Okay? With that, he became a high priestess of this Bitcoin. He was recently on PBD, Patrick Bet-David. I'm sure you know who he is.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to mention that because he did talk about XRP, and Patrick asked him a couple questions.
Yeah,
now,
and then there was a part where actually I recorded off the screen with my phone, and I put it inside my Telegram group. And I said, look at him. I said, he's talking about Bitcoin, XRP, and whatever. And all of us, oh, yeah, I'm friends with Brad. And then he was getting ready to mention it again, and he holds back, he bites. And same thing with Eric Trump. I don't know why they do that. I don't understand the modus apparatus, what the motive is to keep people away from the XRP. I don't. I mean, look, the people that are sold, you're not going to shake us out. We don't care. We hope it goes to $1 tomorrow, so we could buy some more. You know what I mean? We've just been accumulating my wife and I have been accumulating for 10 years.
So as someone who's been accumulating for 10 years then, do you ever get upset when you see someone like Chris Larson, dump a lot of XRP out of nowhere and take a big profit? Like what happens there?
Not at all, because I understand the end game, and I'm okay whether it takes 12 years or 15 years. I'm here to cross the finish line, right? I really couldn't give it. I'm not so smart to sit there in front of a computer and take profits, which I should have done on the last bull run. We didn't, unfortunately. On this one, I'm positioned for that. And so I'm with I won't mention the name of the company, but it's a hardware wallet that lives on the internet. And I'm going to be sitting there pre-programmed with 100,000 XRP, and I'm going to pull the trigger on so much at this price, so much at that price. I want to take out some profits this time around because I've accumulated enough to where the rest of it could sit. But I want to enjoy my life a little bit. Like my wife says, it's time to, reap the rewards of our hard labor, right? No, but I'm not mad at guys like Chris Larson to do what he does. I mean, look, I've heard about it. How much of an effect did it have on the market? I really didn't really pay too much attention. I know whatever it was, within a couple of weeks, it bounced back to where it was anyway. So it's just really, if you're in this game and you let every little thing piss you off, and typically within 2 weeks or 2 months, things get back to where they're back to normal anyway, there's no reason to get mad. Use that energy doing something else.
Yeah, we discovered that today on the live we had on the channel here in the Coin Zone. 20 days ago was when the largest liquidation event happened, when Trump announced the tariff situation with China. Well, exactly 20 days later, everything smoothed over and everything went back to normal after 2 seconds. So you're right.
Exactly my argument.
Yeah. But my question to you is, you have obviously your Telegram group, like you had mentioned. So what are the things that you're telling to them in regards to profit taking? And, if you're mentioning XRP, do you mention other cryptos as well?
I don't get involved too much in dictating to people or coaching people on profit taking. That's not one of my areas of expertise. And I know my strong points. I know my weak points. I know what I'm going to do, and I will tell them what I'm going to do. Like, for example, here's I never trade. My wife trades, but I don't trade. My wife trades every now and then. She does okay. I personally just, if I got extra money, it doesn't matter whether it goes up, it goes down, it stays level for 6 months. I just buy, right? I got an extra 1,000, I got an extra 5,000. I just buy. And I've been doing that consistently, month in, month out for 10 years, right? Consistently. So it's dollar cost averaging. It's the sure way to become a gazillionaire if you understand the game and you know that you're in it to win it, you're in it to go all the way to the finish line. And if you follow that, obviously, if you want to get rich tomorrow, this is not a game for anybody who wants to get rich tomorrow. You're in for a long. I mean, we think right now, based on what's happening, for example, that it's going to happen, any week, any month now, right?
So do you think the Gemini XRP card is a good option then for individuals looking to do what you're saying, kind of dollar cost average?
Yeah, you're talking about the one that gives you cash back in XRP?
Yeah.
I like that card. I actually told my wife to get me one because
Nice.
I instead of using Capital One, which is on auto payment, I would rather use that. At least, even if I accumulate, for example, 100 XRP and I'm right, and it goes to $100,000 each, I think I did okay when the time comes, right?
Yeah. I think these cards are definitely going to become pretty big in the future. Gemini just launched the Solana version as well. So with that said too, mentioning Solana, has there been anything outside of XRP that you've ever, had a big interest in, accumulated all?
I'm really all of my efforts have gone, my wife included, into studying the ISO tokens. When you start to look at the ISO tokens and you understand that they are part of the fabric, they're part of the new infrastructure for the new financial wealth that's coming, there's there's not a lot of need to look at anything else. Now, do I allow Amber to play around and buy herself some Shiba Inu? Of course, happy wife, happy life, right? Does she mess around with Dogcoin? Yes, happy wife, happy life. But I don't personally do that. I stick to the fundamentals. I stick to the ones that have functionality. I stick to the ones that have, they're engineered to fix problems. This SWIFT system is as old as when I moved to the United States in 1972. That's how old it is.
So what is it about these ISO coins that you think is different and what everybody should be focusing on? I believe it's XRP. I'm definitely going to leave a number out, but
they got to be gold compliant. They got to be Basel compliant. The new banking industry that's going to survive has to be compliant with the Basel and the gold as well. Although you've seen how many banks have closed down in the last 5-6 years, thousands
Yeah.
worldwide,
First
thousands,
Republic,
and
Signature.
many more will, and many more will.
Yeah. It's a regional issue. I know XRP has been addressing a lot of that stuff. And when it comes to this ISO, I if you can name them off the top of your head, I know it's XRP, XLM,
IOTA is one of them. I could look them
XDC,
up. XDC,
I
XLM,
think ADA and Algorand too as
yes,
well.
HBAR,
Yeah, HBAR.
yeah, HBAR, correct.
So have any of these ever caught piqued your interest enough to buy it? Or are you just
I
strictly
own a
sticking to
few
XRP?
HBARs, and I own a few of the other ones too, but those are not my heavy bags. My heavy bags are XLM, XRP, XDC. XRP being my main focus.
Gotcha.
We are as committed to XRP as the Bitcoin people believe it's Bitcoin. We know it's
So
not.
yeah, because I think I fully understand what you're saying, and I actually think it's kind of an uncommon opinion in cryptocurrency because I feel like when everyone first got into this space, a lot of people, it was kind of this like anarchist view where it's like, hey, we're going to make everything decentralized. We're going to own everything and push back against the big guy. But it sounds like your take on your investment style into crypto is these compliant blockchains that are playing by the rules. They're not basically creating something new.
Compliant, has a whole new meaning going into this new world that I like to call, they call it DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. Okay, I like to call it Department of Jasara. If you look at Jasara Nasara and you look at what DOGE is doing on a local level here in Florida now, that we're finding a lot of money missing here and there, and there's a lot of fictitious offices set up with fictitious people with fictitious social security numbers with money going to one guy, who's never been to the office because the office doesn't even exist. And so, it works exactly the same way. So we're getting rid of the fraud. We're shrinking down the government, and we have to have banks that apply by a new set of rules. What are those new set of rules? The new set of rules are that you cannot enslave humanity going forward. We're not going to have a digital ID in the United States. I absolutely assure you. This is why we have a Second Amendment.
So people have been saying that XRP is helping usher in CBDCs and everything that you're just mentioning, but you're saying actually that's wrong, and they're offering the solution to make sure that doesn't happen. Is that
how
that
many
what you're
times
saying?
you hear Donald Trump saying central bank digital currencies are not going to happen?
Yeah, but I know Ron DeSantis in Florida as well has banned them, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So imagine, Paul, how would you feel? I mean, I know you're interviewing me, but I'm going to ask you a question. Imagine they bring in a Chinese communist system in the United States, and they got you on a digital ID situation, and you don't like the government or you don't like the big bank down the street, and you say something wrong about and there's cameras watching you or listening to and watching your every move, and they got you documented. There's nowhere to hide. They know how many times a day you go to the bathroom. They know everything about you. They know everything you say, and the algorithms pick it up immediately in 1 second. Oh, you said something wrong here, and they'll tell you exactly the time and date stamp, what platform you're on, what you were wearing that day. If your hair was combed or not combed, I don't have that problem, right? And they say you violated here, and now you can't buy a train ticket. I know you got to go on that business trip, Paul, but sorry, you can't go there this month because you talk bad about the government.
They create a social credit score
system. How long
system.
do you think that system will last in the United States of America before the fucking guns come out?
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people have a lot of interest in blockchain, because it could potentially protect against something like that, some sort of government that goes tyrannical or something like China-based, as you mentioned.
If you got to feed your family, and you got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and you got a wife that's stay-at-home mom, and you can't get to your business meeting to close that deal that puts food on the table to keep your family nourished, how many of those casualties can we keep piling up before Americans say, hey, we got a Second Amendment, we're using it?
Why else is XRP aiding in preventing this from happening? And why, in your opinion, is it better than something like Ethereum?
Ethereum has got all these gas fees. I know that they created a new Ethereum. I don't know how they are able to do that, to be quite honest with you. I'm not an Ethereum expert, and maybe your audience can enlighten me. I don't know everything about everything. There's 69,000 coins, for crying out loud. There's no way that you're going to know everything about even the top 100. There's so many moving parts that make you dizzy. But early on, you used to want to invest in a token. I remember we used to want to invest in these bullshit tokens and try to make some money here and there. And you have to buy $100 worth of this token that's like, 6 zeros and a number, right? And you want to buy $100 worth, for example, but the gas fees were $250. So now what happens? XRP backs up a company called Flare, which is another company, another token that's associated or affiliated with the ISO tokens. And at some point, I believe Flare is going to take over not today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, maybe not even next year. But at some point, Flare is going to be a contender against these stupid things that make no sense. Why would you want to spend $250 in gas fees to go buy a token that costs $100? Who would want to do that?
So these acquisitions that Ripple has been making, then, do you think those are the answers to the problems that you're describing?
Yeah, exactly. And who was making money on that? A bunch of guys who had a secret meeting in a room and they all had a white piece of paper in their pocket. It's a Ponzi scheme. It was insider trading on steroids. Ethereum's got more dirt on them than any other token out there. Who is the CEO, for example, of Bitcoin?
Well, supposedly nobody knows.
Nobody knows, right?
Well, there is none, but
yeah. Where's the office? Where's the main office?
Yeah.
Don't you think there should be some kind of accountability?
Well, I think most people like that there isn't for Bitcoin. I think that's the play behind it.
That was what I was in love with early on. I loved that. Only one problem. It doesn't move fast. It's not cheap. It's not scalable. Everything that XRP has, if XRP had everything that Bitcoin wanted to be, which it does, and it didn't have an office and didn't have a Brad Garling house, that would be the sexiest token alive.
So do you think basically when it comes to XRP then, the individuals just have to basically overlook trust and counterparty risk to be able to invest in it?
What do you mean by that? Break that down.
Well, I feel like a lot of Bitcoiners do not like XRP because they feel like there's an entity behind it. They feel like there's going to be added counterparty risk as opposed to just holding Bitcoin, which basically doesn't really have any counterparty risk because it's not tied to a government or anything like this or an institution. Or, XRP is basically tied to Ripple. So even just recently with the Solana partnering with Western Union, whatever it was, I saw people in the XRP community be, they're upset, asking basically, why didn't we get this one? Why are we constantly seeing Swift and other entities like that work with other cryptocurrencies and not XRP? How do you think about that?
I don't know. I would not be the guy to answer that question. I mean, look, again, I go back to functionality. I go back to what problem does it solve? It doesn't solve anything. It's not scalable. It costs too much money to move from point A to point B. The Lightning Network wasn't able to fix it. We keep going back to the same old. We're going to beat that drum over and over and over again because we have to look at the utility of it all. At the end of the day, it's about utility. All of that stuff doesn't mean anything. Like I said, I think under Trump, there's going to be a set of rules where the banks and the government is not going to screw you and bring in a digital ID and put a chip in your hand and all that kind of shit. That's not going to happen. Are there some people around the world that have put the chip in the hand to be trendy? To be part of the club?
You'll have some influencers to be paid to promote it for sure.
You know what? And some people are for sale. Mel Carmine, I can assure you, is not for sale. I'm not here for a popularity contest. I'm here to amass wealth beyond my wildest dreams because I missed Amazon, I missed Apple, I missed the dot-com era, I missed Google, I missed them all.
And you don't want to miss XRP?
And I missed Bitcoin because I would have invested in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. I knew about Bitcoin, dude, when it was 0.0008 of a penny, 3 zeros and an 8. For $1, you could buy 800 Bitcoins. $1. dollar.
So, are you saying that XRP has the chance then, price action wise, to become the next Bitcoin? You don't want to miss that?
I would be utterly shocked if 2027 expires and we're not in the number one position.
Wow. Okay. So you think it's by market cap or just in general, XRP is going to be the
In
biggest
general, based
cryptocurrency?
on supply and demand, and based on usability, and based on the fact that it makes all of the money on Earth compatible. Your cell phone, which is AT&T, could talk to Verizon. Verizon could talk to what are some of the other carriers? You got Cricket, and all these,
T-Mobile,
T-Mobile, right? They
Cricket
could all talk to each
Mobile,
other.
Ryan
Right.
Reynolds.
Exactly.
So do
The
you think
fact
if the
that
SEC didn't intervene in the past already, that XRP would be bigger already than
oh my
Bitcoin?
God, we would have had at least a conservative, I mean, ultra conservative 30, 40, maybe even a $50 price tag right now as we speak.
Because
No question
if
about
I'm not mistaken, at one point in time, briefly, XRP was bigger than Bitcoin.
it was bigger than Ethereum for sure. We were in the number 2 position for about 6 months. I was there for that. And they said, no, 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 no. Can I have that? They didn't want anybody paying attention because if people get wind of what this thing really is and start to study it, which you'd be foolish not to,
Yeah,
because it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually debated somebody in the XRP community. Not really debated. I just want to interview him, and he was calling Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, and he did mention the whole ETHgate situation. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's the route that you were about to head down. Could you maybe explain that to the audience a little bit?
Well, it was that bald-headed guy? What's his name? That was with Ethereum. I can't think of the character's name. He was one of the
Gavin
interesting
Wood?
guys. No. He worked with Ethereum, and then there was a
Joe Lubin?
gentleman. Yeah, there you go. What's his name?
Joe Lubin?
Yeah, there you go. That guy, along with another guy that was connected to Gary Gensler, who was also on the inside. It was like an inside mafia, and they rigged the whole thing. And when you're paying those gas fees, by the way, those gas fees was going to that mafia. They made it like that because they made a ton of money. I mean, these guys made tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions in some cases, okay, of dollars off the backs of people. So it's an antiquated system. It's a system designed to screw you. So somebody has designed a system to unfuck you. It's called Flare. It's coming. Might take another year. Might take another 2 years. Patience. This is a game of patience. He or she who has the most patience wins. There's no trick to this.
I feel like that's what makes the XRP community so like protective of people. You know, anyone who talks bad about the community, I feel like there's always a lot of pointing the finger at the two big ones that are bigger than it, which is Bitcoin and ETH.
Yeah. The other guy's
And
name was Hinman, by the way. Hinman. Last
Hinman.
name was Hinman. He
Okay.
was connected with Gensler. Gensler was a great guy. I wish Gensler was still in charge, keeping XRP at 39 cents. He was the reason
Wow.
why I was able to accumulate like a bandit.
So is there anything else on your horizon then when it comes to potential price action that isn't XRP? Maybe it's smaller that you're looking at the moment?
That is going to be a big price action. Yeah. There are a few tokens that are also associated, and I own a small bag, Velo. And my wife got me some for Valentine's Day. We don't buy each other chocolates anymore. We buy each other digital assets. They don't give you calories either.
That's great.
But,
It might give you headaches sometimes though.
Velo. We've done some deep dives on Velo. I think Velo is going to be a force to contend with.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Well, based on the small research I was given, it was just a short video of a friend of mine, XRP Steve, and he sent it to me, and he started to connect the dots with all these big names, and like, holy shit! So I'm going to probably buy some more Velo this month. I'm waiting for my commission checks to come in from my international brokers, and then I'm going to probably throw some at Velo. Velo is going to be a good project, I believe.
You know, anything that we didn't hit so far, maybe that you want to cover, or any last things that you want to leave to the audience?
No, man. It's just I want my whole thing. I got into this because I was in the energy deregulation business, selling energy dereg, and then what happened with COVID-19 and everything was shut down. and I had to find something new to do. And one day I said, if Nino Rodriguez, I'm sure you know who Nino is, right?
Don't believe so, actually, no.
Nino Rodriguez? Really? You're the only guy on planet Earth that don't know Nino. Nino's an ex-boxer. He's a world champion boxer. He's a friend of mine. And Nino was doing podcasting, and he had maybe, at that time, maybe he had 120,000 people following. Now he's almost 500,000. And that's with all the censorship, and he's being everybody's being censored. Even PBD is being censored. Everybody. So I said, what am I doing? I'm sitting here. I'm depressed. I'm overeating. I'm fat. Not that I'm skinny. I'm still a little fat. I said, I got to do something with my life. I said, if Nino Rodriguez could do this, I said, so can I. And I got into podcasting. And I never thought it would get as big as it is, even though they've stifled me, even though I believe I have the charisma and the character to be in the millions of followers, and one day we will, if we could beat the algorithms. And so we hope that your audience finds dearmrpresident.net, dearmrpresident.net, not .com, and spread that thing around like, wildfire. If we could one day get rid of the algorithms, it's a very powerful documentary. You should watch it. I would love to get your input on it, actually.
Great.
Yeah.
I would love to watch.
I never
and where
did
can they find you on social media as well?
Oh, yeah. I put it here at Mel Carmine Podcast on YouTube.
So at Mel Carmine Podcast.
Yeah, that's my main channel, which has got like 52,000 subscribers, and I got another one that's got like 14,000. I'm on Rumble. I'm on 7 different platforms.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Mel, I appreciate you coming on.
I had fun. This was good.
Yeah. Thanks for on the coins, man. Appreciate it.